Ghost stories for Christmas have been a British tradition ever since Charles Dickens penned the first popular Christmas ghost story, A Christmas Carol, which is probably the most remade Christmas movie of all time. In this second video from our series on magical realism in Christmas movies, we'll be taking a look at some of these ghost stories both from the British film industry and from Hollywood. The Christmas present these ghosts bring is the gift of second chances, the opportunity to right old wrongs and give rest to weary souls. Hi, I'm Basha, and this first Christmas movie is quickly becoming one of my all-time favorites. Lost Christmas, starring Eddie Izzard, Larry Mills, and Jason Fleming, is a story about loss, and it begins with a Christmas tragedy of immense proportions. Motivated only by his wish to have his family spend Christmas together, a young boy called Goose sets in motion a chain of events with far-reaching consequences. It all starts when his dad, a firefighter, is called into work for a rescue operation.
Come inside, love.
Goose, you see my keys, mate? You're gonna have to drive me in, love.
Take Langford. It's quicker.
Know it all.
But wait, it gets worse. Dad's partner and best friend, Frank, has to attempt the rescue without him.
Stay there, look at me. I'm coming for you. Don't worry, look at me.
Frank is so affected by the tragedy that he leaves his job, turns to the bottle, starts living a very dodgy life, and loses his wife and young daughter in the process. Now, fast forward a year to where Goose is living with a grandmother suffering from dementia.
That's the washing machine now. What happens there?
Nowadays, he occupies his time with petty theft, continuing what he'd started a year earlier by bringing loss to the lives of others until he himself experiences another loss by misplacing his dog. And this is where a mystery stranger, the agent of change, enters the story. We're not really sure whether he's a ghost, an angel, or a shadow from a parallel universe. And neither is he. He seems to have woken up one morning on the streets with no memory of who he is or where he comes from. No memory of a past at all. Just a name tag that reads Anthony.
I don't really feel like an Anthony.
And he also has some useless bits of trivia floating around in his mind that he spews out in a sort of trivia Tourette's.
The hard bit on the end of your lace is called an aglet. I know that Mel Blanc's tombstone says, "That's all, folk." Coke would be green if they didn't color it brown.
But it doesn't take him long to discover that he has a special power. Anytime he touches someone, he can see what they've lost, all the circumstances about how the loss came about, and if it's a thing, where that thing is now.
Lady's lost a bangle.
The wedding, he gave it to you at a wedding. There's a garden, it's your garden. Boy comes in through the window. He takes the bangle.
When Anthony runs into Goose, who's looking for his lost dog, Mutt, he immediately IDs him as the boy who stole the Indian woman's bangle and sees a pattern.
She lost the bangle, you stole the bangle. You lost the dog.
And that gets Goose to thinking that if he returns the bangle, he'll get Mutt back. So he sets off on a quest to do just that. But it's easier said than done because Frank has already fenced it to an antique dealer for him. But Goose isn't the only one trying to find something he lost.
Give me a hand. See if you know what you lost.
Well, in this condition, I'd estimated it round about, somewhere in the region of £40,000.
Happy Prince, Oscar Wilde, 1888, £40,000.
Where is it, mate? I've looked everywhere.
And Frank has lost so much more than just an expensive book.
Please.
High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince.
He's as beautiful as a weathercock, remarked one of the town councillors.
Bloody Australia! You're taking my daughter to the other side of the world forever!
I can't do this anymore.
I'm going to the house of death. Death is the brother of sleep. Bring me two most precious things in the city.
Dr. Clarence.
So Anthony leads him to Dr. Clarence, who had picked up the book in a pub where Frank had left it. And by now, it shouldn't surprise you to learn that Dr. Clarence had lost something as well.
It's still there. It's under the floorboards.
Our wife. She said she left all this time. And I thought she'd gone without a word.
And here is where the chain of events starts going in the other direction. Healing the pain of his wife's presumed abandonment motivates Dr. Clarence to generosity, and he returns the book to Frank. That in turn motivates Frank to emulate the moral of the story in the book itself, which is that true happiness comes from compassion and self-sacrifice. So he does something unexpected with the book.
All that time we were scratching around for money, it was right under our nose.
And you're just giving it to us to go to Australia.
Happy Christmas. I'm going to miss you, both of you.
This lesson from the Happy Prince is an important theme in the movie and really comes into play when the mystery of who Anthony really is revealed. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It looks like Frank's generosity of spirit may well have brought his wife and daughter back to him.
Sorry, Goose. Make out.
Then Frank gives Goose some money to buy back the bangle from the antiques dealer, but the dealer has already sold it. To make things even more interesting, the woman who buys the bangle is the wife of Goose's parole officer and the mother of Millie, the little girl who died by falling through the ice the Christmas before because of the sequence of events that Goose had set in motion by hiding his dad's keys. And Anthony just happens to know who she is by looking at her. So they follow her to the cemetery, and Goose admits to Millie's mother his part in what happened to Millie, explains why he wants the bangle back, and what he hopes to gain by returning it to its rightful owner.
My daddy should have come to save Millie. He could have saved her. He could have saved anyone. I hid my dad's car keys, and if I didn't, he would have gone some other way. Or something else would have happened. But him and Mum wouldn't have died. I didn't mean for them to die.
It wasn't your fault, sweetheart.
I knew it was you as soon as I saw the grave. I knew it was you because he's bringing everything back together. Bringing everything together so we can make it right.
It would be nice to believe that, though, that there was someone who could make things right again.
A little forgiveness can go a long way, and there seems to be an abundance of it this Christmas. What with Frank's wife taking him back, Millie's mum forgiving Goose, and now the lady with the bangle showing her gratitude to Goose for bringing it back. And Goose fully expects his dog Mutt to show up when he gives the bangle back, but when it doesn't happen, he feels cheated. But, as Anthony explains to him,
but maybe if you do the right thing, someone somewhere gives you a second chance.
And Anthony begins to remember his own story.
Many years from now, in the shadows far below the city, amongst the forgotten and the lost, lived a man, a thief and a villain.
He recalls a life led mostly behind bars and the taunts of the other inmates.
Goosey, goosey, gander, goose. Goosey, goosey, gander, goose. Goosey, goosey, gander.
He lives on the streets, and one day he notices a new arrival under the bridge.
Lost my job today. Mum threw me out, said it was a waste of space.
But maybe if you do the right thing, someone somewhere gives you a second chance.
And so, he does the right thing.
Give me your jacket. And really, this man's story should have ended one freezing night as the snow began to fall. Except this man performed one last trick. He stole himself a second chance with a simple act of human kindness.
And in dying to save someone else, he gets to live again. So the next thing you know, young Goose is waking up on Christmas morning a year ago, and he's got his dog back and he's got his parents back. And when the call comes in, he doesn't hide his dad's car keys, and little Millie doesn't die.
Sir, you can step off the ice now. I'll take over from here, sir.
It's all right, Poppet. Nice man's come to help you.
So this movie is a bit like that joke about country western music. You know, if you play it backwards, you get your dog back, you get your wife back, and you get your job back. But seriously, this is really a unique take on healing trauma, undoing the original trauma by undoing its consequences first. Not unlike cognitive processing therapy, which aims to heal trauma by identifying and changing the negative thoughts and beliefs people hold about a traumatic event in their past. And that in turn helps to alter the consequences that the trauma has on their life. Of course, it doesn't undo the original trauma, so that's where the magical realism comes in this movie. By the way, I am not a therapist in any way, shape, or form, but I do read a lot and I know how to use Google. I imagine some of you will want to interpret the story in a non-magical way, and there are a couple of ways to do that. First, this whole story could just have been what was going through Goose's mind the first Christmas when he was contemplating hiding his dad's keys, considering the possible consequences and finally making the right decision. But then again, most of us are more blessed with hindsight than foresight, especially at that age. Or it could have been wish fulfillment in the last thoughts of a dying man, one who so desperately needed forgiveness and wished he could go back and set things right. But both of these explanations would take all the magic out of the story, and like I've said before, what's a Christmas story without a little bit of magic? I mean, wouldn't it be really great if we could all go back and have a talk with our younger self, given the hindsight that we've accumulated over the years? It would almost be like being our own personal ghost of Christmas past, present, and future, all rolled into one. Speaking of which, we now come to the case of Ebenezer Scrooge in Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, who's haunted by 4 different ghosts in one night. You know the story, as seen through the eyes of Ebenezer Scrooge. Now let's look at it through the eyes of the ghosts who haunt him. I like to think of this story as an intervention, kind of like the interventions that friends and family members might use to confront an addict with the consequences of his or her behavior. In this case, the addictive substance is money and the power that it gives Scrooge over others.
In return, we wish to be allowed the option of buying up further shares in the company to a maximum of 51%.
In short, gentlemen, if you wish to save the fair name of the company by accepting their generous offer, they become the company.
And Jacob Marley, Scrooge's now deceased business partner, is like the friend or family member who brings the problem to the addict's attention. Or maybe more like the fellow addict who has already suffered the consequences of his own addiction and hopes to bring the message of recovery to another addict.
It is required of every man that the spirit within him should walk abroad among his fellow men. If it goes not forth in life, it is condemned to do so after death. I come tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate.
Not surprisingly, this one visit from Marley is not enough to put Scrooge on the straight and narrow, and that's why Marley needs to call in the heavyweights. He can't do it alone. Of course, any good intervention includes a program of therapy and removes the addict's access to the addictive substance. And it's not surprising that Scrooge, like any addict, would resist this intervention, especially because he doesn't yet recognize that there is a problem.
You will be visited by 3 spirits. Without their visits, you cannot hope to shun the path I tread.
Was that the chance of hope that you mentioned?
It was.
In that case, never mind.
Nevertheless, he doesn't have much choice in the matter. And since the therapists in the story are ghosts, his wealth doesn't give him any power over them at all. So he's immediately thrown into a situation where he's much more vulnerable than he's used to being in everyday life.
Rise and walk with me.
Through the window?
Are you afraid?
But I am a mortal and liable to fall.
The Ghost of Christmas Past takes an approach similar to that of a psychoanalyst in the Freudian sense. He takes the unconscious and makes it conscious by bringing Scrooge's repressed memories of a painful and lonely childhood into crystal clear focus.
The solitary boy, yourself, Ebenezer, forgotten by his friends, is left there still.
Ebenezer. Father's so much kinder than he used to be that home is like heaven.
For you, perhaps, but not for me.
And then he shows him how his coping mechanism, a focus on financial success and the power it brings him, has already cost him very dearly in terms of the human connection he once yearned for so desperately.
Then you no longer love me?
You no longer love me.
When have I ever said that?
In words, never.
Well, in what then?
In the way you have changed.
But how have I changed towards you?
By changing towards the world. Another idol has replaced me in your heart. A golden idol.
But these realizations are not enough to bring about a change in Scrooge's character. After all, these are memories that he has repressed because they are too painful for him to bear. So he's not exactly grateful to the ghosts for bringing them to light.
Show me no more. Take me away.
However, the one thing that the Ghost of Christmas Past has succeeded in doing is to soften Scrooge up for the images the next ghost will show to him. He's brought Scrooge's long-buried emotions to the surface so that what he's about to witness will impact him more deeply. The Ghost of Christmas Present basically holds a mirror up to Scrooge, showing him not only the consequences of his behavior on others, but also what he's missing out on in life because of his hardened heart. He hopes to be able to reach Scrooge by showing him what life can be like when a heart is filled with love and peace and all the values of Christmas.
So is it true of the child born in Bethlehem. He does not live in men's hearts only one day of the year, but in all the days of the year. You have chosen not to seek him in your heart. Therefore you shall come with me and seek him in the hearts of men of goodwill.
First, he brings him round to the home of his clerk, Bob Cratchit, and one of the first things that Scrooge remarks upon is the wretched conditions in which Bob and his family live. But more than that, he's struck by how happy the family seems to be in spite of their impoverished condition, a condition due to Scrooge's own stinginess.
Why, where's our Martha?
Oh, she's not coming.
Not coming on Christmas Day?
Yes, I am, Father. I can't bear to let them tease you.
Sit you down before the fire and have a nice warm, the Lord bless you.
It'll be a perfect pudding, my love. A perfect pudding. Then a toast, my love, my dearie, to our Merry Christmas.
And he seems particularly moved by the plight of Cratchit's disabled youngest son, Tiny Tim. There's something ethereal and otherworldly about Tim, something that touches the souls of everyone who comes into contact with him.
He told me he wasn't going to feel shy if people looked at him because he was a cripple, as it might be pleasant to them, being in church, to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see.
God bless us, everyone.
Spirit, will Tiny Tim live? I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner carefully preserved. Oh no, kind Spirit, say that he will be spared.
But I doubt whether Scrooge, with his hardened heart, would have been so moved by this scene if he hadn't already been softened up by the memories brought to him by the Ghost of Christmas Past. Somehow, Scrooge seems to have found someone he can relate to, someone whose well-being he cares about. Perhaps he remembers when he himself was such an innocent child, and he doesn't want to see that innocence die again. But the Ghost of Christmas Present knows that his job isn't finished. He needs to show Scrooge the stark contrast between this loving family and Scrooge's relationship to his own remaining family, whose every attempt at love he has spurned. And so he takes him to the home of his nephew Fred to hear what people have to say about him.
He said that Christmas was humbug, and he believed it too. I couldn't feel angry with him if I tried. Who suffers worst from his humour and won't even come to dinner with us? And what's the consequence? He's only cheated himself out of a highly indigestible dinner. It was a wonderful dinner.
On some level, I think the ghost is trying to show Scrooge what he's missing out on, not to rub it in his face, but to get him to realize that his behaviors are self-sabotaging and that he's only perpetuating the pain of his childhood by holding himself above or separate from the rest of humanity.
Did you not cut yourself off from your fellow beings when you lost the love of that gentle creature? Will you profit by what I have shown you of the good in most men's hearts?
Now that all those points have been made, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come really has his work cut out for him. He's the one who has to bring everything together and get Scrooge to make some profound and lasting changes in his life for his own salvation. And this is where many therapists might fail. It's easy enough to get someone to dredge up their past and feel self-pity and even pity for others, but it's not so easy to get people to make major changes. Heck, it's not even easy to get ourselves to make major changes. So the ghost decides to take a tough love approach. And because this is a stage of therapy where the client has to figure out his own solutions, the ghost shows but doesn't tell. So first, Scrooge is made to bear witness to what will happen to Tiny Tim if he continues to keep Bob Cratchit's wages so low that he can't afford medical attention or proper nourishment for Tim.
But he seems to be walking a little slower than he used these last few evenings.
Oh, I've known him walk with Tiny Tim on his shoulder very fast indeed. But then he was very light to carry, and his father loved him so that there was no trouble.
It seems that Scrooge's fear has become reality.
I went to see the place where he will rest. It's strange, but as I stood there, I felt his hand slip in mine as if he was standing beside me and comforting me. He was telling me, you see, in his own little way, that he's happy. Truly happy now, and that we must cease to grieve for him and try to be happy too. Oh.
And in this emotional state, the ghost brings Scrooge to bear witness to what happens upon the death of an unloving and unloved man.
Well then, who's the worse for the loss of a few things like these? Not a dead man, I suppose. If he wanted to keep him after he was dead, why wasn't he amiable in his lifetime? If he had been, he'd have had somebody with him when he was struck with death, instead of lying gasping out his last there alone by himself.
It's poetic justice. He frightened everybody away from him when he was alive, and now he benefits us when he's dead.
And although he doesn't acknowledge it, Scrooge must be starting to realize that the dead man they all despise so much is himself. And that much is all but confirmed when they go back to the stock exchange.
Strange. My usual place is over there, under the clock. I ought to be there this time of day. But I'm not. I'm not.
But it's not until the ghost brings him to his own tombstone that Scrooge is terrified enough to start bargaining.
Are these the shadows of things that must be? Or are they only shadows of things that might be? I know that men's deeds foreshadow certain ends, but if the deeds be departed from, surely the ends will change.
And so once again, the ghosts of Christmas bring the gift of a second chance, and Scrooge takes them up on their offer in rare fashion. He becomes the epitome of the spirit of Christmas itself, recapturing the youth he never had.
A Merry Christmas, Ebenezer! You old humbug! Oh, no, Miss Dilber. It's for a Christmas present. I'll send it to Bob Cratchit. That's what I'll do. He'll never dream where it came from.
And taking responsibility for bringing happiness into his own life.
Fred, is it too late to accept your invitation to dinner?
Too late? I'm delighted, delighted.
And righting old wrongs.
Can you forgive a pig-headed old fool for having no eyes to see with, no ears to hear with, all these years?
And making sure that Tiny Tim has the future he deserves.
Which leaves me no alternative but to raise your salary.
From now on, I want to try to help you to raise that family of yours. If you'll let me.
Could a good therapist achieve the same goal with a motivated patient? Maybe, but such profound changes usually take years of hard work and are often somewhat incomplete. What's magical here, in addition to the appearance of the ghosts themselves, is that the changes happen overnight. In fact, more than a course of therapy, it's as if Scrooge had had a near-death experience, which has been known to change people overnight. And in a way, that's exactly what did happen to him. I think one of the reasons I love this story so much is that it reminds us that we have the opportunity every day, indeed every minute, to begin life anew, to change the ripples that our lives send out into the world, and to change the legacy that we leave behind us when we go. For what is life but a constant process of linking the past with the present with that which is to come? We do it all the time, whether we're aware of it or not, by continually assessing where we've been, how we may have strayed from our course, and setting our sails for wherever we want to end up, hopefully incorporating the lessons we've learned along the way. So, up to now, we've seen Christmas ghosts who come bearing gifts, but there are also those who need something from us. And as we see in the next movie, they're very willing to reciprocate. The 2008 Christmas episode of the BBC drama series Lark Rise to Candleford is the story of a benevolent haunting by a young woman who's searching for her father, many years after her own death. We see the subtle evidence that a ghost is afoot early in the Christmas season.
Wind do blow. Wind do blow.
No. The doorbell sounded, but when I looked, there was no one there.
There's someone at our window.
Who is it, Caroline?
Didn't know one. Wind is all.
At first, the villagers are able to explain all these things away, but little by little, the signs become stronger.
Laura, did you spill something on the stairs? No, ma'am. Look. Has the post office ever had ghosts?
And people start mentioning a strange young woman they've met wandering in the woods, a traveler.
You all right there?
And the cold bite your bones, though.
You need a night by a warm fire. My home is there in Lark Rise.
There ain't flames enough in this world to warm my carcass.
Where are you headed?
I've been searching for a man named Jeremiah Mears. Is he known hereabouts?
I ain't heard the name, no.
The
Abby, what are you thinking of?
Oh, surely we can show a little compassion.
A piece of our finery draped over a vagabond?
Still, nobody thinks the girl is anything other than a little odd. But then, some things start happening that are difficult to explain.
Ain't this the coldest winter ever there was? Perhaps I could tell you a fortune, my darling, for a tater or an onion for the pot.
Come in. My, look at your poor feet. You're wet soaked. Come stand by the stove till we dry you out. Your feet aren't getting dry at all. Here, let me wipe them for you.
You ain't got no kickback, Walter. You can't leave.
At the same time, the townsfolk all seem to be dealing with family matters this Christmas. First, there's young Laura Timmins, who's been working for her mother's cousin, the postmistress, in the next town over. She's caught in the middle when her good intentions go awry and set her mother at odds with cousin Dorcas.
I shall put clean sheets on every bed come Christmas Eve. We will get her home. We're all looking forward to having you back under your own roof again. Perhaps you would like to stay with cousin Dorcas over Christmas, Laura.
Could I truly? You wouldn't mind? Because she can't leave the post office, you see.
Why not? She is your family, after all. Oh, Robert, what have I done? I have told our Laura that she should spend Christmas in Candleford with cousin Dorcas. She can have any number of friends and neighbours by her side, with her dates and figs and the like. Why must she have our Laura too? The child might be grateful to come home to her family. Might consider her ma and pa before her employer.
And it doesn't help that Laura's mother and cousin Dorcas have planned the same Christmas present for her.
It's a beautiful gift, Emma. Laura will cherish it all her life long.
Dorcas Lane has had made for our Laura a fine leather journal with her name on it. Laura saw it by accident.
Give Laura the journal, Emma. If you don't give it to her, you will be doing something terrible to yourself, and I won't let that happen.
And then there's Caroline with her large brood of children who suspects that her sailor husband has plans to set out to sea again before Christmas.
Would there be, or has there been, a letter from my Walter? Perhaps one with naval markings on it?
I cannot say if there is or was. Post office regulations, Mrs. Arliss.
I think I have a right to know if my husband is seeking a ship, and if he's found one, and if my little uns ain't going to have a pa at Christmas.
And the younger sister Pratt, who struggles to liberate herself from an overbearing older sister.
I am tired of your bullying, you old boil.
And all in all, everyone in the village seems to be acting strangely, especially those who are struggling with family issues. It's almost as if they're possessed by something. Or someone.
I'm sorry, Pearl, I don't quite know what came over me.
My own sister, as if she was possessed. My sister has not been the same since she gave a perfectly good cape to that tramp on the lane. The truth is, I don't know. I was overcome by a feeling of an impulse.
I felt compelled, as if there was something else in that cottage, as if the knock and the cold wind made me take the letter out of his pocket.
Up until now, the ghost has been running interference only indirectly, and it starts out feeling like mischief. But when she speaks to the people directly, her words give them pause for thought and help them realize what it is that really matters to them and to let go of their petty grievances.
Your daughter has two mothers. That can be a gift or a torment for a family. Oh, but you have such thoughts on your mind. You're going to have to find out if they're true. These thoughts are yours. We'll find out if it's true. What's in your mind? Be careful you don't break the whole world in half.
Yes, I do feel it.
And the ripples spread throughout the community with the most unlikely friendships being formed and supportive advice being given.
I don't know why those awful words came into my mouth. They were things that have been torturing my mind for so many years.
And perhaps it isn't such a bad thing this happened. May, excuse the vulgarity, burst the boil.
My problem is I have to go home and face the boil in all her vindictive splendor. Why must you always run away?
I don't know how to be with them. They're better off without me.
Go and be with your family. Don't tell them about your tales of the sea. Ask about them. Try to see them. Try. For one day. Surely we can do for one day that which seems impossible for a lifetime.
Meanwhile, the townspeople are still thinking of the mysterious young woman as a traveler, a lost soul in need of help.
We'll search every inch of these woods. What good is decorations? What joy is there in gifts? There is a thought in our head about one lost soul out here in the freezing cold.
But sadly, their help comes too late.
You couldn't save her, Rupert, because you're nigh on 80 years too late. I heard a tale at my father's knee of a body was found in that pond. Nobody knew who she was, see? A traveller. So they took her out and buried her in the woods.
And all this time, they've all been trying to help track down the man that the traveler has been looking for, Jeremiah Mears.
Jeremiah Mears was a local man, local family. I found all their stones up in the graveyard. Why don't we go and look for her grave in the woods?
And they do find her grave.
Cinderella Doe. I had the most vivid waking dream. I saw this woman, Cinderella Doe. She reached a house in Lark, and she looked through the window at a family in there.
She found him, Jeremiah Mears, her pa.
But she turned away, went up the lane towards the pond. Why did she turn away if she'd been searching for him for so long?
The only way to find that out is to ask her.
So they sit down to summon her.
The calling on the spirit of Cinderella Doe. All we want is to help deliver you to peace.
And she does appear.
You heard of a man named Jeremiah Mears hereabouts?
Can I ask why you're searching for him?
He's my pa.
But I think you have found him already.
I saw that family, so cozy and warm and proper. And I saw what I was. No more than a tramp on the road. I could knock on that door, they wouldn't want me. Perhaps it was enough. Finding him, I had no part of the life in that cottage. All I ever known was the search.
And I really love that they thank her for her presence in the village and the influence she's had on their own search for family and connection.
You may not know it, but your being amongst us has affected all of us here. Families have found the courage to say what could not be said. What was broken has been mended, but perhaps it is your turn to rest now.
I'd be glad of a rest. Cold wind do bite.
What is your name?
Molly Mears. Until at last, we belong.
As we learn from the angel Clarence, the clockmaker in It's a Wonderful Life, one life touches so many others. It's a wonderful sentiment for the holiday season, but what happens when a husband and father fails to reach out to those who mean the most to him until it's too late? That's exactly what happens in our next movie, 1998's Jack Frost, starring Michael Keaton, Kelly Preston, and Joseph Cross. In this movie, it's the ghost himself who gets a second chance. In life, the title character, Jack Frost, is a well-meaning but negligent dad who prioritizes the success of his rock band over his family. He constantly lets his son Charlie down by missing all his important events.
Hey, Dad?
Yep.
We're playing hockey tomorrow. Can you come?
We have to go into the studio tomorrow.
Well, you know, the game's not till 4.
Yeah, what am I thinking? I'm there.
How many times have I told you, if you're not going to be there, don't say you're going to be there?
And he tries to win back his son's favor with gifts.
Whoa, want to hear harmonicas?
I got that the morning you were born. I walked out in a great mood, bought myself that harmonica, and I've never had a harmonica that played better than that one. It's my favorite one. Hey, you know another thing about this harmonica? It has magic powers. When you play that, no matter where I am, I can hear it.
And he keeps trying to be a better dad. He even tries to make things up to Charlie by arranging a special Christmas just for the family.
You, me, Mom, we go to the cabin at the Pine Top. We have a real Christmas vacation. Just us. No phone, no TV, no band, nothing. What do you think?
But just as they're ready to leave, the band gets the break they've been waiting for. The break Jack has dreamed of all his life.
The record company heard our tape. We're like 99% sure they want to sign
Yes! What a great gift, just in time for Christmas, right? But wait, there's a catch.
Well, the head of Asylum has to see us. And the only way I'll sign is if we go to Aspen for his party.
When?
Tomorrow.
Christmas?
Major disappointment for Charlie and his mom. So he goes off, promising to be back by Christmas night. But halfway there, Jack has a change of heart. But he never makes it back.
What am I, crazy? I got a great wife, I got a great kid. I'm not living this life anymore. I'm going home. It's Christmas.
Fast forward a year and Charlie is still mourning the loss of his dad while dealing with the schoolyard bullies and trying to take over as man of the house. He's also dropped out of the hockey team, so needless to say, his life kind of sucks. And it doesn't help that his memories of his dad are filled with disappointment.
Your dad loved this guy.
We even played together a couple of times.
Nice to know your time for someone.
Then, one night shortly before Christmas, Charlie builds a snowman in the front yard. And there must have been some magic in that harmonica after all, because the snowman comes to life. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I'm home.
But this isn't just any living snowman.
Charlie? Hey. Charlie, it's me, it's Dad.
Start talking, I'll turn you into a puddle.
Hey, that thing's hot. What are you doing? I'm your father. All right, man, that's it. Okay, you're grounded.
And so Jack re-enters his son's life as a snowman, and he's not going to let this second chance go to waste. He's going to make up for everything he didn't do as a dad while he was alive. He helps Charlie deal with bullies.
Oh, look, it's our little hero. Don't worry about him anymore. He's not even in the game.
Tell him it's Sheriff.
And he becomes more involved with parenting, urging him to start participating in his own life again.
Can I ask you why you quit playing hockey?
Hockey's not that great.
Yeah, right. Hey, life is full of setbacks. Look at me. I'm a snowdrift with arms. You can give up, or you can keep firing the puck, bud. Gotta get back on the team, Charlie. I think you're letting your friends down, and I think you're letting yourself down.
And he tries to get him back on track with his studies, thinking about his future as any good parent would.
Now, I want to talk to you about your schoolwork. Hey, I saw your report card on the fridge. You got some serious jam to do, buddy.
And then he talks to Charlie about his new responsibilities.
And another thing, I'm a little worried about your mom. You've got responsibilities now, Charlie, and you're just gonna have to face them. You're the one who's got to watch out for Mom, and you've got to straighten things out with your friends, too.
He even goes to one of Charlie's hockey games.
I didn't come all the way from the hereafter to miss another one of my kids' hockey games. Way to go, Charlie!
But then, disaster strikes in the form of a heat wave, and Charlie sets out to save his dad by getting him to cooler weather in the mountains, with the help of his former adversary.
Dad, you're melting. I gotta get you someplace cold. I'm not gonna lose you again. Look, Rory, it's too hot down here. If I don't get him up to the mountains, I'm gonna lose him. You know what it's like not to have a dad.
All right, Snow Dad's better than no dad.
And isn't that a magical thing in itself, transforming an enemy into a friend? But knowing that this can't last forever, Jack shares some last-minute heart-to-heart words with Charlie.
I was so busy trying to make my mark on the world, You are my mark on the world. Hey, Charlie, thanks for giving me a second chance to be your dad. Charlie, you've got to get on with your life, buddy.
And on Christmas morning, Charlie lets Jack in on a little secret.
You know that night you came back? It was because I played your harmonica. I wish that you would be here for Christmas.
And then it's time for them to say goodbye.
What if I need you?
I will always be there. I promise. As long as you hold someone in your heart, Charlie, you can never lose them. If you ever need me, I'll be right here. You just call me.
And Charlie's mom, who's been in the dark about this the whole time, shows up just in time to say goodbye to Jack.
Yeah. I love you so much, Gab.
I love you too, Jack. Goodbye, Jack.
Wow. That magical harmonica was quite a gift. It gave Jack a second chance to be a good dad and mend the relationship with his wife, and leaves Charlie with a much more positive memory of his dad that he'll carry with him for the rest of his life. And I have a feeling that that magical harmonica becomes Charlie's most treasured possession. although when he grows up, it will probably just bring him more memories of his dad rather than conjuring him up in the form of a snowman. But ghosts, or soon-to-be ghosts, are not the only ones who come bearing magical gifts. In fact, a magical Christmas present is the central theme of stories like The Nutcracker. I've got a couple of favorite versions I'd like to share with you, so for more on those and other tales of magical Christmas gifts, click here for part 3. And Merry Christmas!